Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. This is Growing Wisdom, and I have a treat for you today. Not only do we have a video about one thing, but I'm going to kind of combine it to make it a video about two interesting subjects. The subject for the video is really the tomatillo, which is, a staple in Mexican cuisine and really an interesting vegetable. I've had some people come by here this summer and ask me what this plant was. And many of these folks didn't even know what this was, but if you've heard of something like salsa verde, green salsa, a lot of times Mexican cooking, Mexican cuisine will use the tomatillo in it. So this is the tomatillo plant, and why do I say this is sort of a video about two things? So we'll talk about the tomatillo and how to grow it and why it's so wonderful, but also notice this is in a container. So we're growing this wonderful plant in a container, and look at all the fruit on it. It is just laden with small tomatillos. They're probably not going to get as big as you would get if they were in the regular garden, but there's so many of them. So let's talk first about how to grow this. Number one, tomatillos are notorious for not being self-pollinating. In other words, you need two. So my other tomatillos are just around the corner. I have a whole bunch of them actually in the garden. So this is close enough that the pollination obviously is occurring. They've actually done studies on this and discovered that if you plant one alone and it doesn't have any others near it, it rarely will set very much fruit. So if you only plant one and you don't get any fruit, that's probably one of the reasons. There are different varieties of tomatillos, so they can be green, yellow, red, even purple. This particular one, as it ripens, is mostly of the green variety. The nice thing about tomatillos for the beginning gardener is that they rarely suffer too many diseases. You don't want to have it too close to the ground because slugs do like to eat the leaves. They can also get some of the blights that affect tomatoes. By the way, this is a cousin of tomatoes. It's not a tomato plant, it's a different plant. You'll definitely want to give this even watering. Notice the plant grows wider than it does tall. So unlike the tomato, which gets very tall and very heavy, this plant doesn't need quite as much support. You'll definitely want to choose a large enough container. We have a container here which is 15 inches across. I would say that anything 15 inches or larger is probably a good idea. I've grown things like cucumbers in smaller containers, but this plant gets fairly wide, and also it's using so much water that if the container's too small, you're going to have to water it every few hours instead of just once a day. How do you know when these bad boys are ripe? Well, the outer husk, which is not edible, will actually begin to turn yellow and eventually brown. That's when the tomatillo is ripe. So if you open up the calyx, you will see inside there is the fruit. So that is the edible part. Now, as I said, these are a little bit smaller than I would like, but one of the reasons for that is they are container grown. Quick story, I was in Peru several years ago, and they actually took the calyx and they twisted it and they dipped the tomatillo in a caramel and served that as a dessert. It was like a little candied tomatillo, except instead of using an apple, they used this. So the taste, I find the taste to be a little bit like a tomato, but it also has essence of, I sound like I'm drinking wine, but it feels like it has essence of plums or peaches or something fruity as well. So it's not just a tomatoey taste at all. You can see why the Mexicans really love using this in their cooking. So while you can certainly eat the tomatillo raw, roasted, fried, or perhaps just sauteed and added with a bit of rice are three of my favorite ways to use this wonderful vegetable. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.